It is
Looks like it.
7:30 p.m. on Tuesday, October 28th, 2025. Good evening. My name is Christian Klein. I am the chair of the Arlington Zoning Board of Appeals, and I am calling this meeting of the board to order. I'd first like to confirm all members and anticipated officials are present. From the Zoning Board of Appeals, we have Roger DuPont
Here.
and Patrick Hanlon,
Here.
Venkat Hawley,
Here.
Adam LeBlanc,
Here.
and Brad Barnowski.
Here.
Good to have you all with us. From the town, we have Colleen Ralston, our clerk and zoning assistant.
Here.
Good to have you with us as well. For the dockets this evening, for docket 3872, 15 Foster Street, Unit 1, Andrew Burns. Mr. Burns may not be available yet. He has a conflict and may be joining us a little later. And then appearing for docket 3874, 10 Need Street, we have Khalil Razaji.
Here.
All right, good to have you with us as well.
Thank you.
So tonight's meeting of the Arlington Zoning Board of Appeals is being conducted remotely, consistent with the bill signed by Governor Healy on March 28, 2025, which extended temporary provisions pertaining to the open meeting law to June 30th, 2027. The extension of these provisions allows public bodies to hold their meetings remotely by providing live, adequate alternative means of public access to the deliberations. This meeting is being recorded and will be broadcast by ACMi. Members of the public who are participating via Zoom and who wish to offer public comment should be aware that they will be asked to provide their full name and address so that a complete public record of the meeting can be taken in accordance with state law. All participants of this meeting are advised that people may be listening to the meeting without offering public comment, and those people are not required to identify themselves. Any votes that are taken this evening will be conducted by roll call vote. All supporting materials that have been provided to members of this body are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda. As chair, I reserve the right to take items out of order in the interest of promoting an orderly meeting. As the board will be taking up new business at this meeting, as chair, I make the following land acknowledgement. Whereas the Zoning Board of Appeals for the town of Arlington, Massachusetts discusses and arbitrates the use of land in Arlington, formerly known as Menotomy, an Algonquin word meaning swift waters, the board hereby acknowledges that the town of Arlington is located on the ancestral lands of the Massachusetts tribe, the tribe of indigenous peoples from whom the colony, province, and commonwealth have taken their names. We pay our respects to the ancestral bloodline of the Massachusetts tribe and their descendants who still inhabit historic Massachusetts territories today. Moving to our agenda, we'll start with our administrative items. These items relate to the operation of the board and as such will generally be conducted without input from the general public. The board will not take up any new business on prior hearings, nor will there be the introduction of any new information on matters previously brought before the board. So with that, we have item 2 on our agenda, which is the vote to approve the decision in docket number 3864, 37 Melrose Street. This is a decision that I had drafted, distributed to the board last week for questions and comments. Final version posted to the board this afternoon. Are there any additional questions or comments in relation to the decision for docket 3864, 37 Melrose Street? Seeing none, I move that the Zoning Board of Appeals for the town of Arlington approve and adopt the written decision in docket 3864, 37 Melrose Street, which grants a special permit for an addition under section 813B in the zoning bylaw.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hanlon. A roll call vote of the board. Mr. DuPont?
Yes.
Mr. Hanlon?
Yes.
Mr. Hawley?
Yes.
Mr. LeBlanc?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. We are approved unanimously on that. That brings us to our next item, item 3 on our agenda, which is the approval of the decision, docket number 3868, 64 Webster Street. Excuse me, this was a decision, believe was drafted by Mr. LeBlanc, is that correct? Distributed to the board for questions and comments. Final version posted back to the board this afternoon. Are there any additional questions or comments in relation to the decision for Webster Street? Seeing none, I move that the Zoning Board of Appeals for the town of Arlington approve and adopt the written decision in docket 3868, 64 Webster Street, which grants a special permit for an enlarged porch under section 539D in the zoning bylaw.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hanlon. So roll call vote of the board to approve. Mr. Dupont,
Yes.
Mr. Hanlon,
Yes.
Mr. Holly,
Yes.
Mr. LeBlanc,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. We are approved unanimously on that decision. That brings us to item 4 on our agenda, approval of the decision, docket number 3871, 30 Whittemore Street. This was a decision that was drafted by Mr. Hanlon, distributed to the board for questions and comments, final version posted back to the board this afternoon. Are there any additional questions or comments in regards to the written decision for 30 Whittemore Street? Seeing none, I move that the Zoning Board of Appeals for the Town of Arlington approve and adopt the written decision in docket 3871, 30 Whittemore Street, which grants a special permit for an enclosed porch and addition under sections 539D and 813B in the zoning bylaw.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hanlon. So vote of the voting members. I was recused on this hearing, so I will not be voting in the final vote. So we have Mr. Dupont,
Yes.
Mr. Hanlon,
Yes.
Mr. Holly,
Yes.
Mr. LeBlanc,
Yes.
and Mr. Baranowski.
Yes.
We approve on that. That brings us to item 5 on our agenda, which is the approval of the minutes from the October 14th meeting of the board. These minutes were drafted by Ms. Ralston, distributed to the board for questions and comments, and a final version posted back to the board. Are there any additional questions or comments in relation to the minutes of the October 14th meeting?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Hanlon?
lest we get blasé about it, we've on a streak of getting minutes of meetings almost as soon as almost at the next meeting after the past meeting is over. This is a super practice, and without Colleen, we could not possibly do it. And I wanted to give her credit for really putting us on the right track as far as producing minutes are concerned.
Agreed. Thank you. Thank you for making that point, and thank you to Ms. Ralston for getting these out so quickly for us. With that, I will move that the Zoning Board of Appeals for the Town of Arlington approve the minutes from the October 14th, 2025 meeting of the board.
Second.
Thanks, Mr. Hanlon. So roll call vote, Mr. Dupont,
Yes.
Mr. Hanlon,
Yes.
Mr. Holly,
Yes.
Mr. LeBlanc,
Yes.
Mr. Baranowski,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. The minutes are approved. That concludes the administrative items section of our agenda. So before opening tonight's meeting for public hearings, here are some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of tonight's business. After I announce each agenda item, I will ask the applicant to introduce themselves or themselves and to make their presentation to the board. We'll then request that members of the board ask what questions they have on the proposal, and after the board's questions have been answered, I will open the meeting for public comment. At the conclusion of public comment, the board will deliberate and vote to either continue or close the public hearing. All votes will be conducted by roll call vote. The final vote on any matter before the board will be taken at a subsequent meeting once the written decision has been drafted and provided to the board. After the decision has been adopted and signed, the decision will be filed with the town clerk, starting the 20-day appeal period under state law. After that time, the applicant may proceed with their building permit. However, under state law, no decision granted by this board shall take effect until a certified copy of the final decision has been filed with and recorded at the Middlesex South Registry of Deeds in Cambridge by the applicant. So with that, this brings us up to item 6 on our agenda this evening, which is docket 3874, 10 Mead Street. If I could go ahead and ask the applicant to unmute themselves and introduce themselves and tell us what they are proposing to do.
Hello, Mr. Chair. Thank you, members of the board. My name is Khalil Razagi of 10 Mead Road, actually, so I'd like to correct the address.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. What I'm looking to do, I have a 6,000 square foot lot. I have all the frontage requirements, the setback requirements that are part of the Arlington zoning documentations. The fact that I wanna I want to do a large addition, I guess, in definition. But the fact that I want to keep the existing foundation of the cape, which is 24 by 32 in size, by keeping the foundation, the building department's considering the addition as a large addition, and hence requiring that I get a special permit for it. If my understanding is correct, if I was to just demo the complete dwelling, I would be able to build the proposed structure based on the lot requirements, and I wouldn't have any issues with it. So hence, we are here for your approval, hopefully to be able to move forward with this project.
Great. Well, thank you very much for that. I will
Thank you.
go ahead and bring up the plans. So this is the plot plan, so the existing house is in this position here. They're proposing to move the bulkhead over, add a deck here at the rear, and then construct an addition here. This is the large addition because will be in excess of 750 square feet. There's two areas noted for usable open space. I'll return to those in a second. And this is the plan that had been submitted earlier, so it's a little cleaner. You can sort of see the dimensions a little bit easier.
That's correct. So to show the proposed setback requirements.
Mhm. And then these are hopefully you can see them. These are the submitted house plans.
That's correct.
So the footprint of the existing house is this piece here. And so the addition, a deck on the back, an enclosed entrance here at the front, which we'll note is would be, I believe, technically within the front yard setback, but under 539A, that's allowed if it's under 25 square feet. And so that would clearly be under 25 square feet. Then the proposed upper floor, and then the basement plan. So is the proposed foundation, would this be a basement under a cellar under the addition, or would it just be crawl space?
So essentially, most of that is going to be the proposed two-car garage, and then the backside where so above the garage it will be living space, and then the backside is just going to be crawl space. So it will not be a full basement.
Okay. And then that's the attic. Okay, yeah. So you can see here on the front elevation, garage under. This is that entrance piece, the front, side view. This is the outline of the existing house here, and then you can see the addition beyond. Oops, excuse me. It's the opposite direction, and then from the rear, with the existing and the addition. I note the existing house has a chimney on this side, so I believe you're removing the chimney. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. And then the roof plan with solar locations, and then we have structural plans. Okay. So I had a couple concerns about the usable open space. I just wanted to come back on. So at the rear of the house, you have this area that's identified as being usable open space at 28 by 20 feet. So by the bylaw, usable open space has to be at least 25 square feet. But it does appear that you have there's 25.1 feet to the rear of the house. So this area here should all qualify, which, going by the numbers on this yard setback and this yard setback, and then the dimensions here along the back of the house, this rear dimension would be 29.37 from this line here to the side yard. So 29.37 times 25.1 is 737 square feet. So that's 737 square feet of usable open space in the rear. And then here at the front, it's identified as a 25 by 25. So doing the similar calculation, it's 10.4 here. But this enclosed portion of the building, which is 3 feet deep, is only 12 foot 9 from the corner. So when you add those two up, the 10.4 and the 12.75, it's only 23.15 feet. So it's not 25 feet to this point. It's only a little over 23 feet, which unfortunately means that this portion of the front yard does not meet the requirements for usable open space. So the only usable open space you have is that 737 square feet, which then we go by the percentage of the gross floor area. So that actually only represents 19% of the gross floor area when it needs to be, I believe it's 30%.
So, sorry to interrupt.
No, please.
Does the usable open space always have to be the dimensions of more than 25 feet?
So it has to be at least 25 by 25 is the way the definition reads.
Okay.
So the site currently, because the entire backyard plus this entire side yard area qualifies, you have an existing percentage of usable open space, which will look to roughly be around 209%. And so you're going to need to make sure you stay above the minimum threshold for usable open space.
Sure. So, would I be able to have the front steps and the bump out moved over several feet in order to create the 25 by 25 required there to be able to get the required usable space?
Yeah, so you're allowed to it's a minimum 25 by 25. It can't include the driveway, so it could go theoretically to the edge of the driveway from the sideline of the yard to the edge of the driveway. As long as you didn't have that bump out on the front, you could do like a covered entrance that's still open, because as long as the definition also says as long as 75% of that area, at least 75% is open to the sky,
Right.
that it qualifies. So you could have a small entry porch that's open, but you would
Right.
not be able to enclose it the way it's shown today.
Okay. So, again, just to make sure I was able to explain myself. So currently, when you measured from the edge of the property to the stairs, it ended up being roughly 23 some feet, I believe you
Yeah,
mentioned.
23.15 going by the two sets of plans.
Right. So if I was to move the set of stairs towards the driveway by 2 feet,
Yep.
to be able to get 25 by 25 in that corner portion of the lot, would that basically give me the needed usable space?
So that would get you usable space to 1,362. And then divide that by 385.6. So that would get you to pretty much exactly 35%.
Okay, so I mean, if you guys are okay with that, I have no problem making that adjustment with the plans to have the front entrance be moved over by 2 feet.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. LeBlanc?
just wanted to jump in. I wanted to discuss the front bump out a little bit further.
Okay.
And since we're discussing moving it, I just wanted to jump in on that. I believe that this front bump is actually increasing or providing a new nonconformity because it is 2 stories tall and it is enclosed building structure. So it is moving it is now making the front setback non-compliant because it's extending the foundation. It's moving the foundation of the building.
Because it's 8 feet by 3 feet, so 24 square feet. So it would be adding 50 square feet beyond the
Yeah,
front
because
wall.
that 5.3.9A that you were referencing also says
Yep.
it's only can be on 1 story. And this bump out is 2 stories.
Five, three, nine. Projecting eaves, chimneys, bay windows, balconies, open fire escapes, porches, and enclosed entrances not more than 25 square feet in floor area or more than 1 story high, which do not project more than 3.5 feet beyond the line of the foundation wall, may extend beyond the minimum yard regulations otherwise provided for the district in which the structure is built. Porches and enclosed entrances larger than allowed above may extend into the minimum yard regulations otherwise provided for the district by special permit. So, Mr. LeBlanc, does that second sentence give us the ability to approve it through a special permit?
Yeah, then we would just need to add the approval of 5.3.9A to the approval for a large addition.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so what we would need to do, so the board, so we would be looking now at two different sections. So we're looking at 542B6, which is the large addition, and also at 539A in terms of the size of the enclosed front addition. And we would also need to condition the approval on the change to the entrance that it be relocated to provide a minimum of 25 feet from the edge of the foyer piece to the side lot line. Are there other questions or comments from the board?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. LeBlanc,
I have some additional ones
please.
in terms of the elevations.
Yep.
I wanted to start, I guess the first ones I wanted to address are the front and the rear elevation. I sort of, looking at what we have for the residential design guidelines and that we're supposed to consider them in these situations. The window type G on this elevation just doesn't really work well stylistically with the rest of the windows in the building since it's a solid pane and the rest of the rest of the windows are 6/1s with muntins and stuff. It sticks out. It doesn't go with the style of the rest of the building. And there's also a window on the rear elevation that does a very similar thing where it's a large expanse of open glass. I'm not opposed to that because I see what is trying to be accomplished on the inside. I just would like it to try and reflect the rest of the windows on the structure.
if those proposed windows had Muntin bars in them, similar to the sort of the more colonial look, would that be what you're
Yeah, it
thinking?
doesn't have to be like a, like a double hung look, but as long if it had the mountains similar to the rest of the windows, I think that would be a more satisfactory design.
Personally, honestly, I don't even like the look of those windows. Sometimes architects just don't listen to what you want. So I'll be glad to change those and have it all be a uniform look.
And then my other comment is related to sort of the rest of the windows on the elevations. It would be nice if we could get some better window alignment throughout. I don't necessarily know if I want to go through every single one at this point, but um, there's just some windows, like at the front here, I think is a good example. We have the two windows to the left under the gable that are aligned with the center of it, but then the windows right below it are slightly misaligned from that. And then the triple set of windows below that are slightly misaligned from the rest of it. So I would just appreciate another pass of some alignment of windows. One of the tenets of the residential design guidelines is to provide a pleasant looking elevation that isn't necessarily driven by the interior program. And sort of what we're seeing here is the interior program sort of delineating where the windows are.
If I go
so-
up to so this is the second floor level. So this is those on the second level, and then on the first floor level, it does appear to be sort of centered in that living room. The next level above, it's in the bedroom, but it's not particularly centered on the bedroom wall. And then in the attic floor, yeah, so it's obviously centered on the gable because of the gable. So looks like it may be possible to slide these over. It's difficult to tell. This one that may be more problematic just because of the size of the windows. How do other members of the board feel about the windows?
If it would please the board, I'll gladly have the change made of the three double hungs to a two double hung, so that it ends up lining up with the second floor windows and give it some uniformity. Like you said, it'll be difficult to move the windows in the gable, but by making the three double on the first floor living space, I think you would better align.
Yeah, just to respond to that, I don't have an issue with it being the three windows on the first floor in the living room. It's more that they're just so close to having some sort of alignment method to them, but they're not, and it just doesn't come off pleasant in an architectural design. So that they can stay, the triple and probably stay there and have some cohesion, on the elevation with where they are. If the second floor windows slide over a little bit, then there actually might be some alignment going on there. It might be just that the second floor windows are the ones that are throwing everything off.
So would you suggest having the second floor windows move over to the left to kind of align with the center of the bottom set of windows, but then it's going to be obviously too far off from the gable windows?
I bet you if you started to look at getting those set of windows here in that what is bedroom 2, if you started to center those on the room, you'd probably actually be doing the room a favor with having the windows centered there and also starting to align the windows here in the second floor with the ones that are on the third floor. And
Okay, yeah,
then we would start to have something.
sure. I have no problem with making those changes.
Yeah, there's other ones on other elevations. I don't know if we want to go through all of them individually or take the time to do that or not, but
It's totally up to you guys. If you have the time, you want to do that, great. If not, I'll just make sure that the architect pays more attention to lining them up better.
yeah, if they could just take another pass of sort of understanding, the exterior alignments.
Sure.
I think another good example is on this left elevation here, we have the type C window on the first floor and then the type C window on the second floor, but that, one would think that they would be able to be stacked on top of each other, but they're not. Just something to look at, consider.
Surely.
I did have one other question related
Please.
to this. Looks like there's quite some significant trees on the left property line where now the structure is starting to get close to those trees and just wanted to I can't quite tell what the distance away will end up being from those trees or how big they are because they're not quite identified on the survey here. Obviously, I'm pretty sure given the size of this, there will have to be a tree plan and the coordination with the tree warden in town. So I'm not too worried about that, but
Absolutely.
just want to make sure that that's sort of brought up.
Sure.
That we are going to be getting pretty close to those trees and the root zone of those trees.
Absolutely. I'll be working on that with Mr. Tim.
Was there anything further from the board? Seeing none. I will now be opening the meeting for public comment. Public questions and comments will be taken as they relate to the matter at hand and should be directed to the board for the purpose of informing its decision. Members of the public will be granted time to ask questions and make comments. Those who wish to address the board should digitally raise their hand using the button on the React tab in the Zoom application. Those calling in by phone, please dial *9 to indicate you would like to speak. You will be called upon by the chair, asked to give your full name and address for the record, and given time for your questions and comments. All questions are to be addressed through the chairs, and please remember to speak clearly. And once all public questions and comments have been addressed, the public comment period will be closed. So with that, are there any members of the public who have questions or comments in regards to this hearing, which is docket 3874, 10 Mead Road? With that, I see Steve Moore has raised a hand.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Steve Moore, Piedmont Street. I appreciate Mr. LeBlanc's comments on the trees. I had a question for the applicant. I was wondering, there are some pretty significant trees around this property I can see, and it's without a tree plan, it is hard to tell what the plans are. Is currently there is the plan to take any of those large trees?
So, yeah, just address that to the applicant. Are you aware of any of the trees that would need to be removed for the construction?
So my whole purpose of not removing the existing foundation was to essentially not harm the trees during the excavation of essentially getting rid of the existing foundation. So there is no plans to take any trees down.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That is wonderful news, and we certainly appreciate you making that adjustment to make that happen. My cross to bear in life is tree protection. So thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Moore.
you.
Are there other members of the public who wish to address this application? Do not see any raised hands. So then with that, I will go ahead and close the public comment period for this hearing. So as we notice, what the board has before it, so this is an application originally filed for a large addition under, excuse me, section 542B6. And as had been noted by Mr. LeBlanc, the location of the proposed entrance at the front of the building also requires the board to issue a special permit under section 539A to allow an addition that's larger than what would be allowed by right within the front setback. Looking briefly through the application and the zoning numbers. So the proposed lot coverage in the initial, it had been calculated incorrectly. The applicant has come back with a revised figure of 31.08, which seems to jive with what I have, which is less than the maximum percentage of 35. So there's no issues there. The lot size is conforming, the lot frontage is conforming. The front yard depth is conforming. We just need to grant the special permit for that entrance piece. The side yard depths are fine. The rear depths are fine. The maximum height is fine. Where we had run into an issue, we have had some extensive discussions at the beginning, was in regards to the usable open space. It does appear that so long as the front, so the front right corner can be a minimum of 25 by 25, then it would qualify as usable open space, and that would give the applicant two areas that qualify, one at the front, one at the rear, both on the right side of the house, and combined, those would provide what appears to be approximately 35% of the gross floor area of the house as usable open space, which would comply with the bylaw. There's no issues in regards to landscaped area. On the number of parking spaces, I would just note that it's the proposed number of parking spaces is actually 2, because it would just be the 2 that are within the garage that would qualify as parking spaces. There's only a requirement for a single parking space, so that doesn't affect anything at all. That was all the notes I had from the application. So then for the board to consider the large addition. So the large additions do have specific requirements that the board needs to evaluate. I'm just going to open up an additional file here. Give me a second. So for a large addition, the board is board needs to find that the alteration or addition is in harmony with other structures and uses in the vicinity. And in making that determination, the board is to consider dimensions and setbacks in relation to abutting structures and uses, and to consider its conformity with the purposes of the bylaw. So as we see here is Mead Road, number 10. The addition would be in this position on the lot. So I think we can see that there's, this will not be impacting the houses that are function on the right-hand side of the house. Would still be very, very far from the properties at the rear. And then the property on the left-hand side here, number 6, while it will move in the direction of their house, there should still be what would appear to be about 20, 25 feet between the proposed addition and the adjoining house, which does not appear that it would be overly close to that house there, and certainly any sort of issues regarding the property line, I think, could be mitigated by landscaping between the applicant and the abutting neighbor. So I don't think that would be a reason to find that it is not in harmony with other structures and uses. Or also to consider conformity with the purposes of the bylaw. Purposes of the bylaw include such things as the preservation of open space, allowing for an orderly expansion of properties and of the tax base of town, and to allow for better usage of land in the town. And certainly this kind of an addition, which although is rather large, especially compared to the existing size of the home, is in keeping generally with the size of not only sizes of properties in Arlington, but also specifically within the neighborhood, as you can see from the footprints of some of the adjacent houses, that the proposed house plus addition is more sort of in keeping with that sort of larger scale home in the neighborhood, but is not unduly large related to other homes. And so I think between those, I think the board can find that the alteration or addition is in harmony with other structures and uses in the vicinity. Are there any questions from the board in regards to those required findings? Seeing none, then we also would need a special permit under section 539A. 539A does not have any specific findings that need to be found, so those would just be evaluated as a part of the overall special permit criteria, which are found in sections 333 of the zoning bylaw. The general finding that the board needs to make is that the adverse effects of the proposed use will not outweigh its beneficial impacts. And in reaching that finding, the board needs to find that the requested use is allowed or allowed by special permit in the district. So this is I believe in the R1 district. So the large addition is allowed by special permit under section 542B6, and the front entrance would be allowed by a special permit under section 539A. The requested use is essential or desirable to the public convenience or welfare. This allows for an orderly expansion of the home to suit the needs of the homeowner. In the application, the homeowner noted that they're also seeking to allow other generations of their family to join them in the home, and so this would allow them to do that, and to accommodate essentially a bedroom suite on the first floor, as well as living space for the family on the upper floor. And the entrance piece, currently the home doesn't really have an enclosed entrance. You just sort of enter right into the stairwell, so this sort of provides a little bit of additional welcoming space at the front of the home, which is similar to other houses in the neighborhood, and would be a welcoming feature. The requested use will not create undue traffic congestion or impair pedestrian safety. The entire addition is to the rear and the side of the home, so it doesn't impact any sight lines or visibility from the street. It will not generate additional traffic generation. It will remain the same existing use of the home as a single-family residence will remain. The requested use will not overload any public system, while it will obviously require additional utilities, additional electric and water and sewer and such connections, those will not be significantly different than the current use of the home and will not create an overload of any of those systems. How the special regulations for the requested use are fulfilled. So as we had noted for section 542B6, we had reviewed those findings that the addition is in harmony with other structures and uses in the vicinity. So that was the special regulation. The requested use will not impair the character or integrity of the district. As Mr. LeBlanc had noted, had done a review in regards to the residential design guidelines. The house as presented was had done a fairly good job of sort of presenting itself in a way that meets the recommendations of the residential design guidelines, and just with the window issues that we had discussed, I think will be an even more welcoming and more compliant home. And although the residential design guidelines are not a requirement, we do appreciate the applicant's willingness to consider the allowing us to make recommendations in regards to that. And then the requested use will not be detrimental to the public health or welfare. This is just in addition to a home, would not be detrimental in any way, and the requested use will not cause an excess of use that would be detrimental to the neighborhood. This is just a single-family home in a single-family district, which is the intended use, so that would not cause an excess use that would be detrimental to the neighborhood. So I think with those, the board would be able to find that the adverse effects of the proposed use will not outweigh its beneficial impacts. Are there any questions from the board in regards to those findings?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Hanlon?
I'm looking forward a little bit to conditions or where we stand with respect to the fenestration issues, and would like to have a sense from the board as to whether or not the issues there can be addressed by a condition, or whether we need to see revised plans in order to see how the challenge in terms of creating a more orderly allocation of windows is actually resolved.
So my sense is that we can probably do it by condition. If the board would be comfortable with that, the next thing to discuss is the conditions. So why don't I go ahead and I had based on our discussion, I put together some preliminary conditions and sort of see how people feel about them. If they appear to be clear enough that we can proceed to a vote to close, or whether we would need to continue in order to see revised plans. So for any application, the board has 3 standard conditions, which would be applied. The first is that the plans and specifications approved by the board for the special permit shall be the final plans and specifications submitted to the building inspector of the town of Arlington in connection with this application for zoning relief. There should be no deviation during construction from approved plans and specifications without the express written approval of the Arlington Zoning Board of Appeals. Second is that the building inspector is hereby notified there to monitor the site and should proceed with appropriate enforcement procedures at any time they determine that violations are present. The building inspector shall proceed under section 3.1 of the zoning bylaw and under the provisions of chapter 40, section 21D of the Massachusetts general laws, and institute non-criminal complaints. If necessary, the building inspector may also approve and institute appropriate criminal action, also in accordance with section 3.1. And the third is that the board shall maintain continuing jurisdiction with respect to the special permit grant. So those are our standard 3, and then the other ones we were considering. First is the board requests that the applicant work with the tree warden to address compliance with the town's tree protection and preservation bylaw. That's an automatic from the process of approval, but was something that was raised during the hearing, so I just wanted to include that. The second is that the front and rear picture windows are to have muntin bars added similar to the proposed double hung windows. So that I think is fairly clear. So essentially they would remain sort of larger windows for the increased view, but they would be broken up by bars, so they would have more of the appearance of double hung. I guess I would ask the applicant, is that what they would like to see, or were they more proposing having them be double hung windows themselves?
Honestly, it really wouldn't matter to us. It's just a
Okay.
matter of getting light in the space. So whatever the board is recommending, we would take
Mhm.
that into consideration.
Okay. Anybody, any members of the board have an issue with that condition? The next would be, is that the architect is to consider whether the vertical alignment of the windows can be improved. I know we had discussed specifically the bedroom number 2, but it occurs to me now that where the entrance piece has to be shifted slightly in the direction of those windows, it may make it more difficult to actually center those 2 windows in the bedroom 2 itself. So um, I think if we just note that the architect is to consider whether the vertical alignment of windows can be improved, I think is sort of more gets to that. If there's a opportunity to get better alignment, then we'll get it. But if not, it'll be what we're seeing today.
Mr. Chair, I agree with that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Board comfortable with that? All right.
Mr. Chair, just a quick
Yeah.
question. Maybe because I'm the newest one here.
No.
That's a pretty procedural condition. Just basically consider this,
Mhm.
what we're saying. I guess have we done that before? It just seems like other conditions normally are much easier to determine what exactly the outcome is,
Yeah.
rather than just to kind of go think about something.
Yeah. So it's tricky in this situation because it's like we could say that the windows have to align vertically, but then it could cause problems with the interior layout of the house if they can't actually be made to align. Um,
Oh, I get the problem. I get the
so
problem. It's more.
yeah. So we have in the past done conditions that are sort of softer like this, where we recommend or encourage. Um, and
I have no problem with it.
Yeah.
I was just
Yeah.
curious, given that it just struck me as much more procedural than kind of our other conditions.
Yeah.
So,
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Hanlon.
I mean, I'm very sympathetic to Mr. Baranowski's concern and would be reluctant to do this. I mean, we could wait and just have the architect submit something to us, and that would cause a couple of weeks delay or maybe more because of the time of the year. And the reason why I don't feel that it's important to do that is that this is sort of coming from the residential design guidelines, and those are not mandatory in any event. I don't think that we would be within our rights to deny this application because of the applicant, even if the architect said yes, but screw you. So to me, saying as the applicant has been willing to do is that we're willing to cooperate and see what we can do is all that we can in good faith require of him. And I don't really see any reason to delay this for a couple of weeks to get something more specific. On balance, it's better to allow this to go forward with a sort of squishy condition than any of the alternatives would be. So that would be I would not necessarily, if this were a different situation, and we really cared about something and it was a matter of actually complying with the bylaw, I'd be pretty reluctant to have a procedural condition of this kind that is looked at not by us, but by the zoning, by the building inspector. But here it seems to me to be entirely appropriate.
Thank you, Mr. Hanlon.
Thank you.
And then the last condition we discussed is that the front entrance shall be shifted to the east to provide at least 25 feet between the side of the entrance and the right side lot line. And that was so that we could that front corner would qualify as usable open space and therefore would be available in the calculation to offset the gross floor area of the home and bring it into compliance with the usable open space requirement. Were there any other conditions that members of the board feel would be appropriate in order to approve this project? Seeing none, I would ask Mr. Hanlon if he would be willing to coordinate the drafting of a decision in favor of approval with condition.
I would.
Thank you, Mr. Hanlon. Are there any additional questions or comments in regards to this application?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Hanlon?
I just wanted to thank Mr. Rozaki for his cooperative attitude, and that we approached all this with a problem-solving frame of mind, and I think it's been a productive and helpful hearing.
Indeed.
Thank you, Mr. Hanlon, and all the board members. I appreciate all the feedback and the guidance.
Welcome. So with that, I will move that the Zoning Board of Appeals for the Town of Arlington close the public hearing for docket 3874 10 Mead Road.
Second.
So then, so the board will be voting to close the public hearing, and then we'll be preparing the decision. The decision will be voted on at our next hearing, which is scheduled for November 25th. We do not have a meeting on the 11th because it's Veterans Day. So at the November 25th meeting, we will vote to approve the application formally, and then it will go to the town clerk. So with that vote of the board to approve, Mr. DuPont,
Yes.
Mr. Hanlon,
Yes.
Mr. Holly,
Yes.
Mr. LeBlanc,
Yes.
the chair votes yes. We have closed the hearing on 10 Mead Road. Thank you all very much, and especially thank yous to the applicant.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. That brings us to the next item on our agenda, which is docket 3872, 15 Foster Street, unit number 1. See, Mr. Burns is with us. Good to have you with us. And if you could just go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us what you're proposing to do.
Hi, good evening. Thank you very much for taking the time to hear me. And I want to apologize to the board for the last meeting. I was on a planning board meeting in Bedford that went like 3.5 hours. So I tried to jump off, and I'm sorry if I looked completely, out of place and kind of frazzled last time you saw me on the computer. But my name is Andrew. I'm a builder. I do a lot in Arlington. I'm more on the single family side. I've done a number of 2-family condo conversions, and I'm now working on 15 Foster Street. And if it's okay with the board, I'd like to share my screen to walk you through the process.
That'd be great. Mr. Alston, if you can go ahead and grant permission.
I think I get it. Hold on here. Let me find the right one.
You are all set.
Yeah. Here we go. All right. Can everyone see what I'm looking at here?
This is starting. There it goes. Yep.
All right. So here is 15 Foster Street. It's an existing 2-family. And we propose to keep the same use, but convert it to 2 condominiums by dividing it, like this way. Over on this side, there'll be 1 unit will enter here, and then the other unit will enter from the rear and then the back of the driveway. The carport over here, the garage, will be deleted to make open space. This rock wall will be kind of removed and brought more over here to make access for a larger driveway, slightly larger, just to accommodate the 4 cars and 2 tandem spots. And I'm here because I am hoping to be granted a special permit to close in this area and essentially move this roof deck up and then close this part in. The reason we're doing it is I'm sure as everyone's familiar with these two families in Arlington, they're very limited on this first floor space, and we'd like to capture this space that is otherwise unutilized to make a mudroom and a half bath for the front unit. And I have some renderings here. Let me get rid of my pencil here. So in keeping with what we're around here, we're looking to kind of close in the front here. Let me get my pencil back out. Close in this front, essentially move the roof deck up one level, as this is a walkout for the master. This becomes two closets for the bedrooms on the second floor. And then this is a half bath here with a mudroom over here on this side when you walk in. And then as you can see, these are the separate entrances, the two forms of egress up the first floor, and then the back unit over here. In an attempt to keep the integrity of the neighborhood and the house, we've left a lot of the gable ends alone. We had to raise this pitch slightly just to get the right roof height, but we kept it in keeping basically with everyone else in the neighborhood. We left this gable end here and built a dormer around it, all with the goal of continuing to blend into the neighborhood. And I have some construction drawings if you're interested. I don't know if you are, or if you're in finishes, or where you'd like me to go next, but that's kind of the outline of what we're looking at and my request to you guys.
Great, thank you. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind just walking quickly through the construction plans.
Sure. All right, so the rear is not as much as the reason I guess I'm here is because this front porch is within the front yard setback. It's a pre-existing non-conforming structure, and we have zero change to or request to change the footprint. The rear of the building is within the setback, so I don't think he's really an issue. So as you can see in our rear elevation, this does get closed. When I first bought it, the bottom floor was closed, and this was kind of like half open, you know, clothesline, stuff like that. I think they had some 3-season kind of use for it. Let me move down here. So this is the elevation on, so not the driveway side, the opposite side, right here. And as you can see, we have the two matching roof decks. This was previously more down here, but now he's gone up. The front elevation showing the entrance, the unit 1. The right side elevation standing in the driveway. So you can see the egress here, 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 and here. And then, all right, this is actually pretty important, right? So let's see, let's go down here to the first floor plan. And I can show you. So where are we here? The front, hold on. So this is the unit in question. So this is what we're talking about. As you come up these steps, you know, as you can see, we're very tight on space when you divide this thing in half. We get one study down here, a small galley kitchen. You know, I guess you could put, you know, the couch and stuff over here. So it is, I think, necessary in very much use, in maximizing the footprint and the highest and best use for the property. I think, you know, it lends to more living in the unit because by chopping it up, I think, you know, it's just going to kind of discombobulate the whole first floor plan. That's that. And then as we go upstairs, that second floor features 3 bedrooms. And then this is kind of a little off. This bedroom wall is kind of shifted over a little bit because this guy has access to a closet in here. Oh no, I'm sorry. I'm looking at this upside down. This is what we're looking at. The 2 walk-ins. And as you go upstairs, you have the 2 roof decks on the 3rd floor. We're calling this the primary suites up here on the 3rd floor. And the basement does have some small living area down there. right here. It's basically just a big open room, mechanical, and where we put the laundry and a half bath.
Are there egress windows in that lower level, that basement level?
No, and then
Okay.
it's not intended to be living space, or like it's not a bedroom. We're well aware of that. We're calling it a playroom. But this is because there's actually steps right here and like right here, so there's really nowhere to put it. I got condensers all the way down here,
Yeah.
and we're kind of tight. We're just kind of working for maybe some bonus space for a playroom, an office, a workout space. Just a really good use of the flex floor plan down there.
Okay.
And I'm happy to go back to anything or address anything, or I never know if I'm like oversharing my screen, so just let me know if you want me to take it down.
No worries. If you want to go ahead and stop the share, that's fine.
Yeah.
So the application um, that we have, um, so the application lists the existing and the proposed gross floor area as the same,
Yes,
but you're
because
definitely enclosing some space.
well, so we're gaining. So yeah, that you're right. The existing floor plan, I think he just kind of my architect just captured that. But it's about 72 square feet per floor. It's this I think it's a 6 by 12 area. That's how big that landing is. So we're adding that to the first unit. So it's a total increase of 144 square feet of gross floor area. Well, I don't know because I guess this goes into the definition of gross floor area because it did
Mhm.
exist, right? Like this deck
So
on
an open porch doesn't count towards gross floor area, but an enclosed porch does.
okay, so good. Because thank you for that clarification because I do a lot in Lexington and porches are not decks and decks are not porches and
Yeah.
porches count as GFA. So
Yeah.
thank you for clarifying that.
Absolutely.
So I am adding about 144 square feet of gross floor area that's going to be taken up from the existing, front entry and that
Mhm.
existing roof deck above it. And we're essentially pushing the roof deck up and adding a floor on top of it.
Okay. And would that be the same area being added at the rear?
So the rear was already like pre-existing closed space,
Oh,
and
it was
and
closed
it's
space.
not
Okay.
within the setback area. So if
Yep.
I'm not mistaken, please correct me if I am. I
Yep.
don't believe that it needs a special permit, and that what we're looking for is in the rear. I mean the front.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure if so what you're saying is that at the rear it was already
The rear,
enclosed?
we had the 20-foot setback line, and we were within it. But in the front, I think.
No, but so was the rear porch, was it enclosed so it was like all weather, or was it an open porch
Well,
with the rear?
it had a series of storm windows and it was closed. Like,
Okay.
but it was used as, I don't know, I don't know if I'd call it living space, but there was a ton of stuff stored out there. They had
Yep.
shelves, food. I'm not sure that, anyone was living there watching TV per se, but it was, they captured the space and conditioned it in a way.
Okay. All right. Um so come back for that. The lot size, it's an undersized lot. Just been noted, it's under on the frontage. Those are both pre-existing conditions. Um, the lot coverage, um, in the application, it notes the existing lot coverage is 30%. The proposed lot coverage is listed as 0%, but I just don't think you're changing
Well,
it.
yeah, so I'm
There's
sorry
no
about.
change.
Well, it's actually we're getting less lot coverage because we're taking down the garage.
Ah,
And it was really hard for me to get in touch with Rover or Scott over there to get the calculation. And in my experience with OpenGov, if you put a zero, you can kind of get past it. So I wanted to get the application into you, but I
hmm
know we're having an increase of open space by dropping the 24 by 24 garage.
Okay. Um, then so the existing front yard depth, it's 15 feet according to the site plan. Um,
I have a copy if you want to pull it up.
So that won't change with the enclosure of the porch because that doesn't change the front yard setback, so it would remain at 15 feet. Minimum by zoning is 20. So as you had noted, that's already existing nonconformity. The left side is conforming. This, no, the right side is conforming at 22 feet. The left side is 4.7 feet, which is existing non-conforming and not changing. That's remaining. And then the rear yard depth, according to the site plan, is listed as 19.9 feet. The minimum depth required by zoning is 17.4 because the lot's only 70 feet, only 87, between 86 and 87.9 feet deep. So, that is conforming. The height will remain at 2.5 stories. The existing building height is listed as 33 feet, not to change. Landscaped area to be easy to achieve at 10%. And then the usable open space. So the existing usable open space looking at the site plan is 0.
Right, I think that's what I meant to put 0. And
Yep, it says that. And then the proposed usable open space I believe would remain 0. You said you're taking down the garage, but are
yeah,
you?
but I think for the open space, if I'm not mistaken, you need to have like a 25 by 25 or a 20 by 20 area to call it usable. And it doesn't fit because of the pre-existing non-conforming, location of the building.
Correct. Yeah, I think you don't have usable open space now, and it looks like after this, you're probably also not going to have usable open space
Well, by definition of the bylaw.
by definition of the bylaw. And that's just something where because you're slightly increasing the gross floor area, you technically need more usable open space. So you're just increasing the intensity of the nonconformity. So it's something the board would also have to consider is whether the intensification of that is significantly more detrimental than the current condition. Parking, I'm not worried about. Then the gross floor area. Okay. So at least from my perspective, I think other members of the board will probably chime in a little bit on this as well. So the bylaw allows the enclosure of a porch by special permit, and the board has been very consistent with decisions over the past year or two with really requesting that if a porch is going to be enclosed, it needs to look like it's an enclosed porch. It can't just look like an extension of the house. And so I think we would. I don't want to speak for other members of the board, but I think that we would appreciate if you could sort of describe how you're planning to and maybe show that rendering you had done again, but how you're intending to address the porch and how will it look like an addition or will it look like an enclosed porch?
Well, thank you for your comments. And I want to pull back up my screen if that's okay, so we can
That'd be
look
great.
together. So, here's our existing, I think this is a good view here, showing our existing versus proposed. And then, I know typically, I think when we talk about these in Arlington, we have the typical porch that goes all the way across. And then I think that's very easy in those instances to do something like this with the windows across and it looks like the two-family feel. But I think we're a little limited here in both location and layout, but we're doing our best. And knowing that we were going to want this to look like a porch, because after speaking with the code enforcement office, that they made the same comment that you guys are very consistent in that. And they said, you can do this through, maybe materials, layout, windows, et cetera, et cetera. So we tried to do our best with that. And then this is kind of what we came up, which is nice, was what we took the board and batten style siding in here to kind of give a vertical type of feel, kind of maybe like in the inspire feelings, I suppose, of like this rail that was existing before or some other kind of rail. The location of the windows, as I look at this now, I think maybe, if it makes a difference on the side, maybe we could add one here. I'm limited here because there's this huge brick wall that kind of comes up like all the way over here in posts. And then there's a toilet right here. So I'm hoping that maybe if we can get away with the first floor, I'm open to, taking comments on the second floor here, or if there's any recommendations to make this look, that the board has seen some, other projects that they've liked. I'm open to, working off of other plans as well. But
All right, so open this up to the board, so how they feel about the way that the outside here is being treated and whether they have any comments in regards to that.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. LeBlanc.
Um, I do sort of like the approach that's being taken here. I will note that it's not the design of the siding that's shown on the plans that we have before us. So there is that. I also just want to make the comment too that, what I'm seeing here, and we've seen this actually on another recent front porch enclosure actually that came before us, is there seems to be this emerging trend of turning away the front of a building from the street to the driveway now, to the longer side. That's obviously not before us, but it's also sort of is, because it's driving the need to enclose this front porch. So I'm a little torn on that, because is it before us, isn't it? Type of thing. And I just don't think it's an approach that should be in town. Everyone else has their front doors facing the street. Even all along Foster Street, there's been a number of these condo conversions up and down the street that still maintain doors facing the front, and isn't sort of turning itself away. But sorry, that's a tangent to the question that was posed. I do think that it's starting to get to some place that the vertical siding rather than the horizontal, that it's still trying to make itself different. But I'm not sure it's totally there. It just looks like it's a different piece of building and not necessarily that it was a porch. I think part of that has to do with the lack of the fenestration. Looking at the plans, I understand why there is. Obviously we were just talking about the first floor with the toilet and the vanity and that existing brick half wall, and then upstairs is the large walk-in closet. So if you start adding windows there, you're taking away actual closet space and all that. So I see the pressures that are causing the design that we have, but I would say maybe it needs to be taken a little bit further in terms of how it's being rendered here.
Chairman,
Mr. Hanlon.
I was intrigued by Mr. Burns' reference to fenestration on the second floor as we're looking at the picture right now. And I was wondering if the idea would be to have a similar window on the other side so that there'd be two, or whether the other side would continue to be blank.
I believe that's a question for me, right, Mr. Hanlon?
Yes, that's a
Yes,
question.
Mr. Burns.
So, I'm just kind of sitting here looking at this with you and thinking about how you would look at this. And just from this particular angle, I think we're kind of limited down here, but I think like Mr. LeBlanc, thank you for your consideration, especially with the layout and like knowing that this is a closet. But if it's, I was going back and forth, right? Like, so I was thinking maybe we just add another window and bring a low paneling here where you have like decorative box panels, maybe on the bottom that could maybe look like balusters of some sorts, and then add a window here. But then I kind of go back to our original, what we're working off of, where it's not your typical, like with the decks going from first story to second story. And what it looked like before, I think always plays a lot. And when you do with designs, like I always say, if you ever look at a new construction house, look next door, there's probably like a boat in their yard that's like catching that guy's eye, and that's why it's colored green or something. So I think when I was designing this, I was thinking, oh, okay, this looks very vertical. Like if you see all like the long lines with the posts in it, and then the balusters above it. And so I think that's where my like idea of the vertical siding came from. But again, I'm open to helping if the board has a recommendation that they've liked in the past and that we can come to a mutual agreement on that. I'm more than willing to do that or take advice from you guys at this time.
So, Mr. Chairman, let me just.
Yeah.
This is actually quite a different problem from the one we normally have had, because in the past, we've largely had something that had lost its identity as a projection into the yard and was kind of being incorporated into the house. And we've often dealt with that by asking for the support structure, so to speak, to be pulled back from the corner of the house so that it had a discrete presence that was distinguished from the house as a whole. And here we actually have that. In fact, in some respects, we have too much of that because there's a certain lightness to porches that normally happens because they have windows and things like that. That here you lose because of the necessity to have or the interest in having a fairly solid looking structure there, which to be sure is penetrating into the front yard, but it somehow doesn't have a porch-like feel to it. So it's quite different so the solution is a little bit different from what we had before. And I think that the idea is not a bad idea. That this is I walk by here virtually every day, so I've seen it with the Tyvek on it mostly, but it has a solidity to it that I'd like to see lightened up in some way. And so I was attracted to the applicant's idea of doing a window that is on that second area and which is, I think from where it is facing in the direction of Mass Ave, but
Correct.
if I'm wrong. And I was just wondering whether or not a similar kind of treatment could be done on the other side. This is really symmetrical. But the underlying principle here for me is basically finding a way to lighten up the structure so that it doesn't look sort of as solid and forbidding as the structure does now. And fenestration is one way of doing that. Maybe doing some treatment of building structure, of building materials could do the same sort of thing. But I'm just trying to sort of get at what the principle, what I'm trying to deal with here. Because what we've done with before about just sort of moving it away from the corner of the house isn't really addressing the problem here. The problem is that in some respects that front intrusion into the front yard is just looking too solid and forbidding and needs to be lightened up in some way. At least that's the way I look at it as somebody who doesn't have an architecture degree, and I'm just kind of looking at it as I walk down the street. So I yield to the views of the architects on the board, but that's the way I look at it.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes,
go
Mr.
ahead.
Holly.
I'll yield it to Roger, and then I'll pick up
Well,
after.
I think we'll go, okay.
Go ahead,
Another
Roger.
non-architect. I would just like to add, because I think that this is sort of the perspective I've always approached with, is that when we've been faced with enclosing porches, we want to make sure that they still sort of retain some sort of identity as a porch. And it's interesting because when I look at the picture above of existing conditions, I can clearly see that on the house itself, those are two porches or a deck and a porch. But then when I look next door and I see that enclosed sort of swath of first and second floor, it still looks to me, and maybe it's because, that's something that's so typical in Arlington, that still looks to me like an enclosed porch. I mean, I look at that and I say, oh, that's a porch that was enclosed. And I think that for me is what I would like to see. And it perhaps just speaks to what Mr. Hanlon just said about the solidity of that structure, something to have it have the look of a porch that was enclosed, however you choose to do that. And I think the suggestions you made about, fenestration and balustrade or whatever the term is, I think that those things could work to pull that effect off. So I yield to Mr. Hawley.
Thanks, Roger. Yeah, it's on the same lines, echoing with what Mr. Hanlon and DuPont has said, is the one thing the view at the bottom does not capture, I believe is on the other side where the porch is flush with the rest of the building elevation and it's solid with the closet on the first floor and a walk-in on the upper floor. So to me, that continuity goes on to another 50, 60 feet into the site, which could be broke up. And if the applicant is amenable to shift this slightly to the right so that there is some reveal out and the porch reads, which you can see evidently on the top image there, where the porch is set back from the rest of the elevation. Although on this side,
Well, when you say move it to the right, you mean this whole structure?
Take the porch part and then slide it, just the porch portion of it, the enclosed porch of it, to the right, maybe by a foot or so. So that way
But I think that, Chairman, you would know better, but I think that would be increasing the level of nonconformity if I move that thing.
They're not moving it towards the street, but I think he's talking about shifting it towards Mass
Shifting.
Ave so that you have a reveal at the corner. Now, I think we all understand that this has been built.
Yes,
It's
that
sort
was
of the elephant
yeah,
in the room.
that was
So,
the other, begging for forgiveness here. This has been built. We started, so the building department approached me, and I, in my own ignorance here, I've done a lot of these in town, and I looked at my permit, I called for a rough, and he said, Andrew, like, did you get this approved by a special permit? And I said, oh my God, no. So this is why I'm here. So we've completely stopped construction here. We've done stuff over here, but we're waiting on you to tell us what we can do. The means and methods to move this over here a foot or two for a reveal, I think would be really very difficult, time consuming, expensive, and at the detriment of a 100-year-old house. And I fear that if we go undermining this thing and moving it and taking machines and digging all around here, we're going to end up with some big problems. And then all in addition to like the layout, foundations, footings, frost walls, it's not, you can't just pick them up and move them, as you guys probably know that, or slide them or shift them. Not to cut you off, Mr. Holy, at all. I just don't want to. I just, want to walk down a road of moving the building.
No, just I hear you.
Yeah, maybe be easier to take an excavator to the whole thing,
Then I think the solution that Mr. DuPont and Mr. Hanlon was getting at to alleviate through window fenestration is another way to do it on both sides, possibly, and whether it affects the inside of the walk-in closet, possibly it may.
The walk-in closet will survive, right? So I'll let you guys continue, but I'm thinking maybe like moving, like they're just duplicating this on either side, on either side of this. Is that kind of what we're thinking, to kind of like mimic this, what's above? I'll refer to you or defer to you.
Yeah, sort of looking at the I was sort of, sort of struggling to figure out sort of, is there a, not to dictate what to do, but is there a way that we can sort of encourage a way of thinking about the trim or the windows, the lightness or whatever? Um, and especially for the reverse side of this image that
Oh,
or the
well,
rendering that we don't have. So what I was wondering is,
what if we, like, say, if you look at this detail here, right, like this thing sticking, what if I built out like a soffit kind of right here? Built out a soffit, like, built it out so like it bumps out, shows the two trim details, like the 1x8 with the 1x3 and some kind
mhm,
of, soffit detail like you'd see on like that's more up here. And then to kind of give a clear distinction between the two stories. And then I also want to go back to I think a big part of Arlington, I grew up here, and that it is the closed-in porch, right?
yeah,
Like, I think there's a good way to make them look nice, and that's very much part of the town as much as the open porch. And then, like, that's, and then my experience in seeing these, I'd like to keep it looking like a porch and lime, but if we built out this whole detail to show kind of make it look like it's a closed-in porch, right? Like that's kind of what I'm
mhm.
saying. And then add windows on either side. And then when I get tomorrow morning, I'll go by and I'll do some investigative research and see if I can't squeeze something in here. But I'm worried because if you look at this right here, this brick ledge exists, and this is only
Yeah.
about like 3.5, 4 feet plus a header height. And you get into these really shrunk down awning windows. And I don't know if that's really the direction the board wants me going in with small crankcase awning windows, or if we should just kind of work up here and do these.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I was thinking of, that you had sort of brought forward, is that it's those horizontal lines are just really light. Um, and so having them be, have a more sort of vertical face on them so that they really sort of read and give you that sense that there's, these two levels that are there.
Yeah.
Um, that I think,
How this deck is almost like recessed in, and then these posts are recessed in. You can clearly see the two levels.
yeah, just even like, because here it looks like it's just like, a one
Yeah.
by three that's wrapped around the building, or,
I
if
mean,
it
it's
had
only
some
as good as
more,
the guy you pay on Fiverr, so,
yeah, but like if it had some, and, I'd ask the other architects on the board too, but I think if it just had a little more, those boards, if they had just had a little more width to them, so they had a little better definition, like I think that would help to have it not read as much as it's just the house with the siding turned. That it's got a
yeah.
different sort of
I
feel
understand
to it.
completely, and I don't disagree and whatsoever, and I'm very receptive to what you're saying, and I agree that I think that these lines are very light, but it's working,
Yep.
so I think maybe go back to the drawing board on the rendering, or even I don't know, maybe the easiest thing would be have my cider who's there is almost build out this soffit just for this piece, take a picture of it, and then see you guys in 2 weeks. And if we like it, we'll just leave it there. We could tack it up almost like a sample detail on one side. And Mr. Hanlon, if he walks by, could definitely see this, or anyone, of course. But because I think it's gonna be hard to have my architect draw this exact detail, but it'd be really easy to explain to my cider to make it look like it used to.
Hmm.
I could take a picture of that. And we'll just maybe do one side so you see it, and I won't go all the way in case everyone hates it.
Yeah, so the trick for the board is that we're not meeting again until the 25th of November. So we're not
Whoa.
meeting for 4 weeks.
Okay.
So trying to
24th
hope
of
to
this year,
avoid having to
Thanksgiving?
continue you for another long period.
All right,
Um,
good. All right, here we go. Well, thank you. That's very considerate of you. So I'd love to find a solution now if that's possible.
so I guess I would turn that to the board. So do we feel that this is something, so I know like in the last case, there were a couple of things we had wanted to do. We were able to sort of write conditions that sort of directed the changes we were looking for. Do we feel that this is something of a level where we can do the same, or do we feel that we need to see some revised drawings that would give us a better sense of what we're going to be seeing?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Baranowski.
could I ask, could we just clarify? I think it sounds like there's kind of possibly three um three elements that we're looking at here, or three parts of the space. Also not the, also one of the lawyers, not the architects on the board, so bear with me as I describe the space. It sounds like we're talking about possibly having more windows on the second floor, possibly a thicker bump soffit, sorry, in the middle. And then I'm not sure if we're really saying doing anything differently on the first level, because it sounds like lightening up the top might be enough. But I just want to make sure I'm clear on kind of where we are on the things that where we're kind of hovering around.
I believe that those are definitely the different things we've discussed, but what sort of combination or permutation thereof, I don't think we've really ironed out.
Well, can I add a possible?
Of course.
Addition? So I like adding the windows on the top floor for adding the lightness, because if we could scroll back to what it looks like now, the house looks like, or it looked like, I should say, what the house looked like.
It looked like.
The bottom floor already, to me, reads heavier, the bottom porch, because of the brick. So as I look at this, thinking of trying to kind of make this, but enclosed, I'm more concerned about the second floor being lighter, because of how open it is. So I can see there being a lot more play in the joints on the first level, to, be a little bit heavier reading, and maybe we could just put the builder could put panels or something on the outside to differentiate that level or lighten it up a bit. So I guess I just want to put my 2 cents in. I see the two levels kind of having different design issues in terms of the enclosure, because of, again, just currently these brick porches just always look heavy and kind of dark to me, as they are now. And so this actually, in some ways, the first floor looks a little bit lighter, because it's white. I see the point though on the second floor, because it is, adding windows would help to make that airier, and I like the idea of putting the soffit between the two to make it clear that this used to be two porches. That's all.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah. Mr. Hanlon.
Just to follow up with that, I totally agree that that was where I was going to begin with, but two things is, one is that one of the possibilities of lightening the second floor that we haven't mentioned, and I don't know if it's possible or sensible or not, but the window that faces directly to the front, that faces on to Foster Street, is sort of small. And one way of lightening that up conceivably to be to have a larger window there, so it creates more of a sense of open space. The other thing I wanted to mention is that when you look at the picture just above, the one the existing conditions, and you look, as Mr. DuPont did, at the house next door, actually that follows the same kind of approach that we've been talking about. That sort of is heavy on the bottom, and it's lightened up on the top, largely by having lots and lots of windows. So following a similar strategy here kind of ties those houses together in a way that makes them make sense as a pair, that increases the attraction of that approach on this house, to my way of thinking anyway.
I think that's a good idea, and I think, in my, selfish reasons, I would love to add another window here to the front, like double this up, and then leave these blank, because this is a closet, and if we start lighting this thing up, we're not gonna have much storage at all. And I know what we're going for. Maybe we could put in some awnings up high or something, but if the front facing elevation is it more meaningful to the board, I think it would be much better to center up, but just double this window, get one more of these, and just shift this guy over, and then just add them right next to it. And that might give us this kind of what the neighbor has next door over here. And then, also with the addition of, building out a, faux soffit of sorts right here. Which You know, I'm actually, do you mind if I pull up, I'm gonna go into my email here. I just sent. So this is what it looks like right now. Can you guys see this?
No, we're still seeing the other.
Oh, hold on. Hold on. Share. Let's go. This. Right. So this is what it looks like right now. Can you see this?
There we go. Yep.
So here we are existing as of today, or 3 days ago. So, you know, I think we have space to shift this one over and then add another and basically make this look like a big, you know, quadruple mold window up here. This gets filled in, and then I don't know if you can see the detail here, but so this gets framed out about 8 inches,
Yep.
which does not show on the rendering. And then this then gets applied with PVC under here. It gets a fascia board, and it really pronounces that top level of the building. And what I think it would be a great addition is if we took this same detail and wrapped it around, like, you know, the middle of this second, or sorry, I didn't mean to go all the way over there, but like right here to separate, to bring back that porch feel.
So that trim at the upper level, that's going to be on 3 sides.
Yes,
Okay.
this will be on all 3 sides, all built out. I think it's actually been built out since I took this picture. But we have not done this part, but I'm more than open to doing that. And I think it would, you know, I think it's a good use because if you see over here, it's very similar to what they did.
Yeah.
Where they used like a 1x8 maybe on a flat, but ours will be a little more pronounced and with some more massing to it to really separate the two spaces. And then, you know, of course, just let me know which screen you want to look at because this is in my Gmail right now.
So it feels like something we would be able to write up in a condition. That would be
And then, you know,
both
we can
between
write
the
this
windows.
condition, and if you want, I can build this and come back, you know, on the 28th. You know, this isn't, it's more like if we're, you know, I'm not that concerned if, you know, if we want to come back and look at this, as long as, you know, we have an understanding that it's not going to stop the place from being developed. This is more of an outside aesthetic thing, and I could continue on the inside. I'm more than happy to do this work and come back in 3-4 weeks or whatever it is. Or
Members
maybe
of the
if you
board
don't want me
think
to come back, just give me conditions. It's great.
Would members of the board feel more comfortable getting a revised set of drawings, or would you rather, do you think we can address this with conditions and close?
Mr. Chairman, can you go back to the rendering, please?
Yes. Mr. Burns, if you could put that rendering back up.
Yeah, here we go. You see that?
There it goes. Yep.
So if I may, Mr. Chairman, so for me, I get the idea of wrapping around between the first and second floor. It's just that those two spaces on the side without windows seems to be a fairly broad expanse. And I would wonder, and I would defer to the architects on the board, but I would wonder if there's something else you could do in there that would sort of break that up, because that's part of what catches my eye when I look at it, is that it's just sort of a long stretch, and maybe what Mr. Burns is saying would have the effect that I'm discussing, or but I'm just not sure. So I'd really like to see something break that up. I don't know how exactly to do that, but just visually something to make sure that it is broken up.
I mean, we've definitely had other applications. There's been like a narrow horizontal trim that would be at sort of your typical height for like the railing of a porch that sort of wraps around, becomes the sill of the window, and then sort of carry that line
build it
around.
out with like some 5/4 stock to make it look like balusters almost around it.
Or, I mean, the vertical trim does a nice job with sort of mimicking that, but it's sort of carrying, you know, if you sort of, if you think of your typical, 1.5 inch, 2 inch sill for the window, like just sort of carrying that line horizontally around sort of helps to subdivide
Okay.
that space on the side. Then you've got
Then you build
so
this.
going from the top, you've got the railings, then you've got that sort of heavier band, then a light band, then a heavier band, then a lighter band.
Okay, yeah, I think that's definitely doable. I think we get into if are we still adding windows on this side,
Hmm.
or do you want? I think the easy, is if we make this, it's like a big double mold right here, center this, and then I like that idea of you carry this rail across, and then we can take some PVC flat stock and like just kind of make almost like balusters on top, like almost like paneling, with some
Hmm.
detailed molding that kind of gives that baluster look. I think I know what you guys are looking for. And then above it, like in here, this will remain as vertical siding, but below it, just like a rail scheme of sorts, an interpretation of it, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
So maybe like just like add another double window on the front and carry around a band molding at sill at window sill height around the bump out on the second floor to give the look and feel of the porch.
Yeah. So I think between those various things, it sort of does sort of the best job of addressing the concerns we have. Um, but I kind of feel like we're in the point now where it would be better if we saw revised drawings of what it would be.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I also would like to see a another take at the numbers that are in the application, because there's a lot of things there that are not correct. It'd be good to get that revised as well.
Okay.
Um, just particular, especially on like the gross floor area calculations, um, and some of the setback stuff.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Hanlon.
having seen the sharing screen going away,
Sorry.
noticed
Going
the
back.
presence of Mr. Moore. And that reminds me that we haven't actually had public comment yet. And maybe before we sort of settle in finally on the right approach here, we ought to go through that part of the hearing as well.
That is a point that is very well taken. I do apologize to the public for us getting a little ahead of ourselves here. Um, so as I had noted before opening tonight's meeting for before opening this hearing for public comment, public questions or comments are taken as they relate to the matter at hand. Those wishing to address the board can digitally raise their hand using the button on the React tab in the Zoom application. Called upon by the chair, asked to give your full name and address to the record and given time for questions and comments. So with that, the first hand we have up is Karen Kitteridge.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you, Mr. Hanlon, for mentioning that. I was like, what's going on here? Oh no, after 2 meetings. I do want to go on record again. I'm a bit disappointed that it sounds like work that has been done already is just going to be a little retroactive slap on the wrist for not understanding Arlington building processes. I think, to be blunt, anyone who's doing construction in Arlington should be a little bit more familiar with the requirements and have a bit better information. And unfortunately, on Foster Street, almost every house here has been flipped for this type of thing. And the porches, especially being enclosed, are looking like very large, heavy barnacles attached to a house. So it really would be nice to have something from a more architectural standpoint. Obviously, at this point, nothing's going to be torn down, etc. But I would like to see more of an effort of some type of architectural thing. In all honesty, the larger window sounds nicer or some type of soffit or a trim that makes it look larger. The other thing that I have seen an awful lot of is, I don't know why everyone's doing the boards, perpendicular versus horizontal, and just keeping the siding across the board. Because if you look at the house next door, the siding is sideways. So anything from a aesthetic standpoint would be appreciated, but again, I'm just more disappointed that this is all a retroactive request and wasn't stopped.
Well, thank you for that. Ms. Kisher, before you go, for the record, I do need to include your address in the record. Sorry.
I'm sorry, I thought I said it's 10 Foster Street.
And Foster, thank you so much. And then next on our list is Mr. Steve Moore.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Steve Moore, Piedmont Street. I want to applaud Ms. Kittredge's contribution, and I will be a little more blunt and a little less pleasant about it. I'm going to vent a bit with the board's indulgence.
As long as you're venting at the board.
Yes, I'm venting at the board. It's not incumbent on the board to solve mistakes that have been made by a builder who says he's done a lot of work in Arlington and is willing to ask forgiveness, having already built something which clearly is perturbing the board a little bit. I don't understand why the board needs to bend over backwards to resolve an issue that's been created by moving forward in a manner which is not according to the Arlington process. Asking forgiveness, unfortunately, is, and I would never accuse the applicant of this, but it is one of the methods of getting through something which you really do want, even though it contravenes perhaps some of the desires of a board like the Zoning Board of Appeals. I don't know if that's happening here. I really don't. I mean, it's too late, even if it is happening here, trying to turn the Salzier into a silk purse of the front of this porch, which has been enclosed. I've heard in the past Mr. Hanlon speak regularly to the creeping of living space into porch space. That's exactly what's going on here. We now will have a porch, quote unquote porch, that goes up 2 stories with a deck on top. It's going to have living space in the lower areas below it. Not a mudroom, but a bathroom and a walk-in closet. This is not typically what's done with the enclosing of a porch. I think the rendering is very misleading because the building shown next to it doesn't look at anything like the building that's currently going to be next to it when this is completed. I think the picture that was shared by the applicant showing where we are right now was a lot more accurate in terms of how things are going to look next door, with 2 blocky, as explained by Mrs. Kittredge, barnacly porches that aren't porches anymore. I mean, to my mind, the purpose of a porch is to break up the entrance to the main building, be it to, at recreational space or whatever. They do get enclosed in Arlington a lot. A lot of it has been done well. A lot of it's been done quite poorly in Arlington, and it's a tradition which continues to move on now with the board's increased direction and oversight, I think in a far more useful way. But just the fact it's a tradition doesn't make it right, particularly when we're growing the living space, which is what's going on here. I want to furthermore strongly echo, if one can strongly echo, the comments made by Mr. LeBlanc a long time ago, which was, I really don't understand why this turning of the front of the house to the side, which is becoming more common, is anywhere near what the design guidelines would support. It basically is turning, to my mind, the use of the house into far outweighing the fact of fitting into a community. It's like turning the backside to the street and the backside to the neighborhood, but the nicer side to the side that people can't see so well. So anyway, I know I'm venting here, and I know this has already been built, and it's going to be very difficult to to make it work, although I do applaud what I'm hearing from the board trying to do that, it really sticks in my craw, as you can tell. So anyway, thanks for your indulgence, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome, Mr. Moore. Are there other members of the public who wish to address this application? Again, this is 15 Foster Street. Seeing none, I'll go ahead and close the public comment period. Again, with thanks to Mr. Hanlon for the reminder.
Mr. Chairman?
So what the board has before it, again, just to reiterate, so this is we have an application for a special permit under section 539D to enclose the front porch, which requires a special permit from the Zoning Board of Appeals. Mr. Hanlon, did you have a comment?
I did. I wanted to, there were a couple of things I wanted to say in response to Mr. Moore. One is that, at least the way in which I think that I look at it, the fact that this is, if we came to the conclusion that in order to meet the requirements of the zoning bylaw, the porch that's already been built or the structure that's already been built had to come down, we would do that. We're not entitled to penalize anybody in making a substantive decision just because they didn't follow the right procedure, but we're also not required to give them any favorable treatment because they've gone ahead and changed the status quo without authorization. And that our obligation here is to be neutral. What's being asked for here is something that we've had at least one or two of them in every meeting in the last several months. And they're not really big things in the sense that they usually are granted with the kinds of adjustments that we've been discussing here. This is a little unusual because it's not physically moving the entire house into the front, but it has got more of a definition than we've sometimes seen in the past. So we have a somewhat different question here, making this look porch-like, which is what we're trying to do. And I started this off last year, I think, or last spring anyway, being concerned about just functionally extending the house into the setback, and the way in which that undermines the purpose of the setback requirement, because the porches in function anyway are not really porches anymore. They're really an extension of the house. We've already gone way beyond that. Partly, I think that's true because under state law, we're not generally entitled to use zoning to regulate the inside layout of a house. So looking at it and saying, well, you can't move the living room out into what was formerly the porch area would be a questionable thing to do. And we've largely settled, instead of requiring it to look like a porch and have a discrete thing and to be used as a porch, we've attempted to deal with trying to preserve the impression of a projection into the front yard, and something that, even if it isn't acting like a porch, is reading as a porch in the language that Mr. LeBlanc has used before. And that's what we've been trying to do here. There are some issues that have come up that have to do with what's already there. Some of that has to do with what's already there in the past, and not just what has been created. But I just wanted to make clear here that we're not leaning over backwards. We're doing the same kind of analysis that we have done on enclosing porch cases consistently for the last several months. And we're trying to apply the same kinds of principle that we have applied in those cases, even though this is a somewhat different setting. That being said, this is obviously to my way of thinking, a very unsatisfactory bylaw. It is not providing us guidance. We're trying to work this out as we go along. And I think that we've done the best we can given what we have to work with. But for those of us who are going to be attending town meeting, I think this is one of the subjects that needs to be taken up. And town meeting just has to decide what the underlying policy is. And I promise that we'll do whatever they say.
Well, thank you, Mr. Hanlon. So with all that feedback, and given the discussion we've had so far, I think the best course of action for the board is to request a continuance. But we should make sure that we're clear with the applicant what it is that we're requesting to see. So from my perspective, at least, the first is that ask the applicant to take another pass at the application and to really sort of think carefully and make sure that the responses that are in there are actually correct. Um, you know, I appreciate that it's a lot of information it's asking for, and it's sort of tedious, but it's important for us because any decision we make becomes a part of the legal history of the property and gets registered at the Registry of Deeds. So it's really important for us that the application document what the gross floor area is correctly, that the setbacks are noted correctly, the ratios and things like that. So it asked that would want to have that redone. And then from the perspective of the enclosure itself, I thought we had a very substantive conversation about the kinds of moves that could be made to make it look more appropriate. I would encourage the applicant to sort of look at some of the other buildings around. It does definitely appear that having a wider board at the separation between the layers is something that you see in a lot of the enclosed porches up and down the street. You also do see a little more registration of the sill line. And sort of thinking about the trim and the application of the trim, and I don't know if you've really considered colors very much at all. I mean, colors are another thing that could be used. I do appreciate having some extra fenestration on the front at the second floor level. I think that'll be helpful. And sort of to take a look and see if there's a possibility of introducing windows on the sides as well as just having them on the front. I think that all of those would be things that would be sort of welcome in making it, retaining the porch character and sort of making it look more like a porch that's been enclosed rather than just a volume that's attached to the front of the building. Are there other comments from the board that they would
Mr.
want to
Chair?
direct to the applicant? Yes, please.
I would just also note that we focused really on the second floor, and I would like to see. I understand not that I understand the builder can't necessarily put more windows on the first floor because of all the constraints that he noted, but I'd be interested in seeing if he was going to do anything in terms of more cosmetic with the siding on the second floor, what it would look like on the first floor as well in terms of the paneling that he'd indicated he was interested in doing, just because there might be some symmetry that would continue the feeling of a double-decker porch that'd be cheap that way.
I agree. I think it would be a cohesive to tie both floors in because I think it's a symmetrical space, and to not do that would be a detriment to the design.
Anything else? The only other comment I had is just to the door itself. The way it's been rendered so far, it's really just like a punched door in the wall. There's not like a lot of trim associated with it or anything like that. I just sort of encourage you to take another look at it and also just to think a little bit about what it's gonna be like opening that door in the rain. And if there's something we can do that's simple to try to address that. It may just be that they go to the door on the side, but that's the other thing that had sort of stood out at me is that door is just very stark sitting out in the front. It doesn't really have any kind of welcoming quality to it.
Okay. All right. So as part of the trim package, we'll look to beef up that front door to give it a little more massing, to separate it from the flat structure, to give a little juxtaposition between the features.
Anything else from the board before we're continuing?
So we're 1 month from today or 2 weeks?
So our next meeting is November 25th.
Wow.
Just because unfortunately our next meeting is November 11th, which is Veterans Day. So we're not meeting on Veterans Day.
And then is this something you want? I mean, I'll work with Colleen in the inspectional department. She's been
Yep.
amazing, kind of walking me through this. So thank you to her. But should this, I anticipate this being done well before
Yep.
11/25, and I'd love to get it in front of you, and then that's fine, right? Just go through Colleen and upload it, and then I guess if anyone has time to give me feedback prior to that meeting, I'm more than happy to receive it. Otherwise, I'll plan to see you guys then.
Okay. Yeah, the sooner you get it to us, it gives us more of an opportunity to look through it, gives the public more of an opportunity to look through it.
Absolutely. So is this will get continued, or do I need to do anything for that, or?
Okay, so the board, so it sounds like we're the 25th is a date that works for everybody. So the board just needs to vote to accept the continuance, and then it'll get added to our calendar. And Mr. Ralston, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think he needs to do anything else.
Nope, just the sooner he could get it, like by the 10th, if he could get us the changes so we can review them before the meeting, that would be great.
Perfect.
Thank you. Well, that's a good date. 11/10. There we go.
All right. So with that, I move that the Zoning Board of Appeals for the town of Arlington continue the public hearing for docket 3872, 15 Foster Street, unit number 1, to Tuesday, November 25th, 2025 at 7:30 p.m. Second?
Second.
Thank Mr. LeBlanc. So then a vote of the board to continue. Mr. DuPont,
Yes.
Mr. Hanlon,
Yes.
Mr. Holly,
Yes.
Mr. LeBlanc,
Yes.
Mr. Baranowski,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes, we are continued on 3872 15 Foster Street. Thank you, Mr. Burns, for being with us.
Thank you
Then we
very
will-
much for your time and your consideration.
We'll see you in November.
See you in November.
So with that, as we noted before, so our next meeting, which would normally be November 11th, will not be held because it is Veterans Day. So we will be meeting next on the November 25th. Then we have a meeting on December 9th. And then the following meeting after December 9th will be December 23rd. So we are not meeting on the 23rd as well. So the meeting after that is January 13th. So the end of the year is coming fast. And then I will ask if there's anything else. I don't think so. I had mentioned briefly to the board before the meeting, but the select board did vote to reappoint myself and Mr. Hanlon to the Zoning Board of Appeals. So we are now continued through 2028. And I have been told by the select board that they are interviewing a candidate for the second associate's position. So hopefully I will have more information on that before the end of the year. And the only other thing is, so the board had been collecting some items throughout the year. There were things that they felt the zoning board, or things in the zoning bylaw that should be looked at ahead of town meeting. And so that I have passed that note on to the redevelopment board for their consideration. They had a retreat last week, so they were going to start the process of looking at what they're going to discuss. I haven't heard back from them yet. But they certainly sounded amenable to some of the things we had put forward. So we'll have more information for that as we get closer to the end of the year. And with that, I would like to thank you all for your participation in tonight's meeting of the Arlington Zoning Board of Appeals. I appreciate everyone's patience throughout the meeting. I would especially like to thank Colleen Ralston and Mike Champa for their assistance in preparing for and hosting our online meeting. Please note the purpose of the board's recording of the meeting is to ensure the creation of an accurate record of its proceedings. It's our understanding that the recording made by ACMi will be available on demand at acmi.tv within the coming days. Would note that Arlington Community Media is dedicated to providing an electronic forum for the free exchange of information and ideas which reflect the talent, skills, interests, concerns, and diversity of the Arlington community. Please visit acmi.tv to learn how to support this valuable public resource. If anyone has comments or recommendations, please send them via email to zba@town.arlington.ma.us. That email address is also listed on the Zoning Board of Appeals website. And to conclude tonight's meeting, I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Moore.
if I could add a comment before you move to adjourn.
Sure.
First, I just want to tell the board that when the reappointment occurred for both yourself and Mr. Hanlon, the select board was deservedly highly complimentary of all the contributions that you folks have regularly made to the board. I just wanted to make sure that folks heard, reiterated that your efforts are very much appreciated. They reappointed you with great positive applause. So that's my first comment. The second one is I just wanted to, I'm sorry if I got a little strident there to do with commenting on one of the cases tonight. I just, when I hear about people asking forgiveness, having done something already, I always have a bit of a problem because it's very easy to go that way. And I appreciate Mr. Hanlon's comments post my own. Thank you.
Thank you. So with that a motion to adjourn, did I have a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Mr. Hanlon. A
Second.
second? Thanks,
Second.
Mr. DuPont. So then a motion to adjourn, Mr. DuPont,
Yes.
Mr. Hanlon,
Yes.
Mr. Holly,
Yes.
Mr. LeBlanc,
Yes.
Mr. Baranowski,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. The board is adjourned. Thank you all so much. See you all on the 25th.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Good night.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Everybody.